Hello, I'm Devine. I'm the Director of Coast Young Professionals at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with Laura Payne today.
Hi, I'm the Director of Development here at Back Bay Mission.
This morning we just held an event here at Back Bay Mission. We did a two-part event collaboration between Back Bay Mission and Coast Young Professionals. The In Their Shoes was the morning portion where we did a deep dive into an immersive experience here at Back Bay Mission. We learned about all of the services that they provide here at their location. We toured the campus, learned about the services, the staff, everything that they do here, and then we wrapped everything up with a lunch bunch where we featured a panel of some local organizations and things like that. So if you weren't able to join us, we just wanted to give you a little bit more information about Back Bay Mission, some upcoming events and things like that we have going on, so you can learn about everything you missed this morning.
Our next In Their Shoes will be October 13th, and if you're interested in signing up for that, you can contact Back Bay Mission, ask for Laura or Kevin. And then we have our 100th anniversary ribbon cutting. Yes, 100 years of Back Bay Mission here. We'll do the ribbon cutting here, of course, on October 13th as well, starting at 4:30 in conjunction with Coast Young Professionals and the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you soon. This morning's section is something that Back Bay Mission offers pretty much quarterly, a few times a year. So we just did it as a collaborative event today to try to help get people in the door. This is actually a little bit something different. CYP does what we call lunch bunch a few times a year as well. Well, it's supposed to be a lighthearted networking. You can come, exchange business cards and things like that. But since we're already here, we wanted to add an educational aspect as well. This morning you learned a lot about what Back Bay Mission itself does, but you didn't necessarily hear enough about maybe some of the organizations that they partner with as well. They're totally separate entities, but they have these ongoing relationships and have for a really long time. So we have a wonderful panel here this morning. I'm gonna let each of them kind of introduce themselves, say where they work and kind of their relationship at Back Bay Mission, and then we have a couple questions prepared for them as well, and we'll have a Q&A at the end, okay? You want to start us off, Kris?
Yes, my name is Kris Reilly. Good morning. I'm the Executive Director for Loaves Fishes. The gentlemen and ladies that provide this good meal for you guys, and give them a hand. They work so hard. Proud of those guys. We've been here. We're housed here right now at Back Bay Mission. We provide lunch and breakfast on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They graciously allow us to use their parking lot right now because we're in the process of looking for a building to call home. But since I've been here, it's been great work, great partnership with James, the executive director here. So I look forward to doing more great things with this organization.
Awesome.
So I'm James Pennington. I think most of you met me, executive director here. Kris feels like my brother from another mother. Right? Yeah. So anyway, it's been good to kind of be in this partnership together here, and actually Coastal Health just down the street. And so we provide a lot of services together, right? And it's really supporting the communities that oftentimes are left out, people don't advocate for, people that are in the margins. And so that's kind of what we're all up here doing.
Okay, my name is Tonya Kidd. I am the Healthcare for the Homeless Outreach Coordinator, and we provide services to homeless individuals. All of the services that Coastal Family Health offers, including dental and optometry. And we are down the street, as he said, in Biloxi. Then we have Gulfport and Jackson County as well, Moss Point. So we have a few different clinics in this area. So great to be here today.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Jackson. I'm the path lead on the homeless outreach with the Mental Health Association. Basically what we do is provide resources such as Coastal Family, places like Back Bay Mission for the individuals who are homeless, and also while linking mental health for them. That's transporting them, getting in contact with different organizations that help individuals who are homeless, stuff like that, while also helping them understand about their mental health and being the individual to guide them to it. So all while trying to give them camping supplies, food, clothing, and this all-around general resource that you would need to kind of maintain yourself while you're out on the streets. And the way our partnership with Back Bay is, this is an awesome place for them to get some of those resources. They got wonderful individuals like Mr. Daniel in the back and Mr. Christopher, and Mr.
James.
James here, doing fantastic work with these individuals. And I just kind of hang out here and help and outreach to them while in a safe place. So that's kind of how Back Bay helps, and I definitely appreciate all that they do, because this is definitely a one-of-a-kind place here on the coast. So I definitely appreciate all y'all.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And again, there'll be a lead sheet going out with our contact information, so if you want to reach out after the program today, you'll have plenty of time to do that as well. So one of the things we're focused on this morning is community service, community engagement, education, making those connections in our community as well. And I think one of the ways that we can do that that's really important is breaking down some of those stigmas, some of those barriers between what people see when they think of homelessness, especially those of us who don't have any close connection to it with anyone in our family or anything we've ever personally experienced. And so I think with that comes a lot of misconception with the services that are available here. People don't know much about it if they've never dealt with it specifically themselves. So as far as like food insecurity and things that you focus on in your organizations that you do, what are some common misconceptions that you guys have to face on a day-to-day basis with like the public and the services you provide in our community?
Okay, I think for us at Loaves and Fishes, it's more, the misconception is just, we feed only the hungry, homeless, but we actually feed the hungry. So anyone that's hungry, can come out here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays and grab a meal. If you're working for the city and don't feel like going to McDonald's, stop by and get you a hot meal here. So we feed the, the hungry and not just the homeless. So I think that's one misconception that I'm working on trying to change in the community.
Awesome.
I would say one misconception, and this was actually presented several times just recently at I spoke at a public health gathering up in Hattiesburg, and I had 3 individuals that work in public health say, hey, why don't they just get a job, those homeless folks, right? Because there's plenty of employment, plenty of jobs. And I think what people don't realize is how many barriers there are to getting employment if you're homeless. You don't have a place to shower, you don't have clean clothes, you don't have a driver's license, you don't have identification. And you're just trying to live on the streets, which is a job in and of itself. So I think in fact, for that I did 10 myths of homelessness and poverty. So there's a lot more than that. But yeah, these are the things that we hear.
Okay, and to go back to how Coastal Family Health partners with Back Bay Mission is we have our HCH coordinator here in Biloxi comes here once a month. We do screenings on site. So we actually come to the individual while they were getting services here and sign them up for the healthcare program. A lot of misconceptions with Gulf Coast Coastal Family Health is that we are a free clinic. We're totally free. We're a sliding fee scale. And so we have individuals come in, and when they find out they do a copay, and that's for patients outside of this program, and they think that it's they don't pay anything. And we are a sliding fee scale, so as long as you submit your income, you can get any service for $40 up front, and you don't have to pay anything else. However, on my program, some it's totally free, but some may think they may say a health insurance plan as opposed to a program. Mm-hmm. And so I have to tell them it's a program, and you only can utilize it at our clinics. And then another misconception is that we help with housing. That's I don't know if it's just because of me being out in the field or whatever, but they think that we can help with housing, or my name may get around and say, hey, she can help you with housing too. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to, let them know that it's a program and that the clinic itself is a clinic based on income. Yeah.
Well, kind of piggyback off of what Ms. Tonya said, definitely one of the big misconceptions about what I do is I can immediately put you in housing, which I don't. Unfortunately, as much as I wish I could, I don't. On the good side of that, I do work with the individuals who do put people into housing. We do outreach together, and so when that question comes up, I always kind of reassure my clients, like, I don't necessarily put you in, but I work hand in hand, and I can be that bridge or network you to the individuals that do that, and then that kind of lightens the mood, and they eventually definitely want to hear what I got to say and how I can help them. But yeah, that's one of the major things. Like, I absolutely don't. I wish I could, but I don't. So it's just, but I do a lot of outreach with the individuals that do. So.
Yeah, and I think a misconception too, if I can butt in, is that we get people into housing immediately. Just like you, it takes time, right? sometimes 30 days. And there's such a premium right now of affordable housing that it's really difficult. And because some landlords or management companies, they really don't want to house people that were previously homeless. They see it as a risk. So there are some challenges, and I think, like you said, misconception, that if you ask for housing, the next day you'll be in housing. It oftentimes is a longer process. But that's part of our culture and the world in which we live.
Yeah, and to even piggyback off of Mr. James again, that's a huge one I get, like everything is instant. People don't realize we are dealing with people who are in crisis.
Yeah.
And they're at their wit's end, so they want immediate answers. And unfortunately, I don't have that. I always tell them, like, everything's a process that I do. It takes time, and as long as you are willing and have the patience to work with me, things can happen. And sometimes individuals don't have that patience or that willingness, and that's a huge hurdle that I face a lot. And you know, they don't stay around long enough because they're due to being impatient. But yeah. So it's that everything is automatic. Even seeing Miss Tonya or going to see a therapist, like it takes time. It's like almost a week or so to even see somebody for real. So and they don't understand why. So that's a big issue.
We'll just keep piggybacking.
Go for it. That's what it's about.
But I think, you know, that is a challenge. We need an overnight shelter, emergency shelter here. So young professionals advocate, because that NIMBYism, not in my backyard, or if we build a shelter, an overnight shelter, all the homeless people move to the Gulf Coast from everywhere. Those are myths, but we need that, and we're trying to advocate. All of us are, right? And so please call Mayor Fofo. Leave him a message, leave the city council, let them know we really need that for safety and security.
I apologize if I'm here, but where is the closest overnight shelter on the Gold Coast? To the Gold Coast.
Let me know when you find that.
There isn't.
They do have,
Salvation Army.
yeah, they do have cold weather shelters and some things like that. There are organizations in places that are in place during hurricanes, extreme weather conditions and things like that. Not heat, not when it gets really cold, but there are places like that, but those are emergency only. They're as short term as possible. They're very, very limited in places like that that are available on the coast in need, that the cities do tend to work hand in hand to try to provide. It is very, very limited, and they try to shut that down as quickly and as easily as possible to prevent it from becoming an issue. But those are in extreme crisis and emergency circumstances only.
We had a really cold snap not too long ago. We put, I don't know how many people in or hotel rooms.
We rented like 15 hotel rooms.
Yeah, but resources are limited. Sometimes we have money for hotel rooms, sometimes we don't. But it's kind of a temporary fix, right?
And it has to be freezing conditions.
Exactly.
And I'll say this too, just yesterday was watching the news, and you know, anyone know about the RAMP program? The RAMP program for open doors. You know, of course, our governor is shutting it down. So we're gonna see a more influx of homeless individuals that were normal families in homes that are no longer gonna be housed. And so just get ready for that as well, because that RAMP program kept people in their homes during, you know, these last couple of years. So if anything, young professionals as well, if we can advocate, if I would have known anything, I probably would have been at the Capitol myself, but right now, that is a big, big issue. So we should be very concerned about that.
Call the governor, write your representatives.
He's already sent the money back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's just.
Say, hey,
So they have someone
Reinstate.
speaking, they were in Jackson this weekend, someone's trying to hold a conversation with a couple people.
And just like he said, the misconception from the governor is that people do not want to work, and that they are, you know, I was very thrown back. I was floored by that comment, and said that, you know, they need to get out and work, that Democrats are used to, you know, just giving out handouts, and that has nothing to do with the homeless population.
and that's a huge myth I hear all the time because we're so divided, and it doesn't really matter if you're Republican or Democrat, but the fact is, you know, kind of Democrats are accused of kind of creating welfare system, right? And it's disturbing. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and untruths.
And they're disconnected.
And they're disconnected,
Totally
yeah.
disconnected from
Yeah.
what goes on the street.
I thought it was interesting what you said too about how some things take time. And when you talk about things in a crisis and you want that immediate fix or whatever, and that's one of the things I know Back Bay Mission talks about a lot, is they try to be a hand up, not a hand out. They want to help you when you're ready to make that next transition, whether it's going from homeless to housing, whether it's going from hungry to fed, whatever it is that you need, that's the service that they try to provide. But a lot of the time, it has to be at that person's comfort level, which is very, very hard. And I know when we talk about our Bridges Out of Poverty program that Back Bay Mission provides, they haven't had that for a couple years, but I know before, one of the issues is that they go through it and they learn it, but it's generation after generation of living in poverty, and it's hard to break that. When you grew up living off of food stamps and condensed milk and this and that and the other, it's normal for you. And I think for a lot of people too, at least for me as a upper middle class white girl from Ohio and then coming down here on the coast and really trying to immerse myself in the community, I've never experienced. I'm automatically biased. I try to keep an open mind, open heart, whatever, but I'm just unconsciously biased by the way that I grew up. And so it's very different to come down here and what I think is an unacceptable living condition or an unacceptable way of life. It's just normal for a lot of people. And it's like, we want to come in and make it better, but in some ways it's not necessarily bad, or our way of making it better isn't what they need.
Exactly. And you're always going to have those who are, you know, going to be dependent upon the system. I mean, that goes without, but, you know, and looking for a handout. However, you still have a majority of people, if you place them somewhere, you know, I know we talked about, you know, housing first within this whole arena, and some never had housing, so it's like, you know, we place them in housing without, you know, addressing their concerns holistically from health and mental health and all of that. When we place them in housing, they're not able to keep the housing. So that's where case management is important, transitional housing and all of that to help them with all these different things to, you know, from looking for a job and or doing, you know, taking care of their health and wellness. And so I think that, you know, it's just a little bit more of a hand than a handout, just helping them to navigate the system. Yeah.
And kind of like you said, letting people move forward when they're ready to move forward. Because if you've been living in poverty or you've been living in homelessness for any length of time, it really is it has to be a mindset change, right? And I think about that for myself growing up in poverty. My mother used to kind of share this. My mother used to rake the fringe on the rugs. Like they had the bedroom set when they got married, they had it when they passed away, right? But they took care of things. And I kind of have that mindset too. Like I get really upset if people don't take care of their stuff, right? Because what you had, you took care of. And so I think part of it is changing poverty mindset. And I think right now we're having a lot of discussions around like what is best, home ownership or renting? Because home ownership was the American dream, and it's becoming really challenging, right, for people. So I think those are a lot of things to keep in mind.
And not only that, I think, you know, once we give them that hand, is being able to go back and check on those individuals, give them that support system that they need. Because you got to understand, yes, be able to sustain and go back and give them that support that they need. You know, because I like to say this, you know, a lot of us in here, you know, we go home to our families, we know we're getting ready to prepare meals for our families and things like that, but these individuals don't have, you know, per se that home to go to and prepare meals, and they worry about eating, what they're going to eat tonight and what they're going to eat in the morning and things like that. So once we do give them that hand up, you know, be able to be there and be that support system for them, I think is something that we got to continue to do in some form. You know, what they look like, I don't know, you know, but that's part of the solution too.
And that may sound really simplistic, I think, when Kris says, you know, if they get a meal, right? But if we feed them meals, or y'all feed people meals, that gives them a little more money in their pocket for rent, for electricity. It's the same with a sack of groceries or healthcare, right? They don't have to pay a healthcare premium. And so it's really about equity and justice and helping relieve people's pocketbooks so they can have and stay housed. So, and it may not be as much of an issue for you as young professionals, because you get a pretty good salary, right? But if you're living, less than $15 an hour is kind of, you know, it can be really challenging. Nothing from the audience? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Sarah.
I've been in housing for 5 years, and it's also teaching them to advocate for their housing rights as well, because we house people and their roofs are leaking inside their apartments, and they're too afraid to speak up for themselves, and they think that they don't have enough value to ask to have their roofs lit. They say, I'm afraid to bring it up, I don't want to lose my housing. So it's also teaching them to advocate for, they should have the same standard. When I go to an apartment, those roofs gotta be rock solid in there, you know? So some of it is like a lack of self-worth over time, I think sometimes.
Funny you said that, I had an exact client do that same scenario. And it took me and the lady I was working with, Open Doors, to let her know, like, you have the right to live in decent conditions. Like, you don't have to settle for your wiring to be out, or like you said, a hole in your roof, and giving her that empowerment to speak up. And she eventually did, and it was good to know that all this took was just to let her know. And that is an issue as well. So I'm glad you said that, because it happens. You be you be surprised, and they don't know, because like you said, they're not used to that. And they don't want to be a burden. It was funny because that's what she told us. She's like, I didn't want to be a burden on you.
And for the next person.
Right,
It's like,
right.
let us know when it's small so we don't have a big issue.
Yes, yeah.
You're helping me, you know.
And landlords too, you know, they have to do better with keeping their properties up. And just because you're putting somebody that's low income, or someone else is paying their rent temporarily, that you still need to keep them conditions of that living space accurate. Because you have black mold and all of that. I've heard horror stories in my transitional housing program I used to oversee. And, you know, that causes health problems and all of that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Father Greg, I'm on the board of Loaves Fishes. I think a disconnect is that we can't afford this. And we live in a land of abundance.
Yeah.
And if we all chip in, we can afford to take care of those who really can. I don't know of any person that comes for food or comes to Back Bay Mission and walks off with a profit that they can go spend and play with. They're living, you know, hand to mouth, shack to shack, food to food, or room to room. But if we all do it together, and that's a value that our country has had for a long time, that we need to be reminded we can do this, and we can do it together. Because if we take care of them, it doesn't become this huge, immense overburden. But it is about we love and care for our neighbor. And if we do it together, we can easily avoid it and still not end up being, we're all at a loss for it. We're at a gain for it over and over and over.
I think what you're saying is like even those of us right here who have a decent living, we get into that scarcity mindset, right? And sometimes the more you have, the more of a scarcity mindset. And so part of it is we have an abundance. If we share what we have, everybody could be fed, everybody could be housed, right? So I think that's, it's critical. Thank you, Father.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
And I do have to say
Yeah,
something.
go for it.
So I do work with homeless, and homeless youth specifically. And what I've learned while working with them is they don't know some of the things that we take for granted. Cleaning up, cooking, trash don't supposed to be on the floor, just things like that. So while working with them, you have to have a heart, and you have to be open-minded. You have to let them know. You can't go in there and just like, hey, this is dirty, or you can't do anything like to scare them or make them feel uncomfortable. You have to go in there open. You teach them. You have to teach them. Be their walking hand while you're working with them. So, and the living conditions, I've had several complain about the way they were living. Roofs, bathtubs, leakages of the sink, just different conditions. And like you said, they don't want to speak up about that. But you be their voice and encourage them to have that voice. So you have to do things like that. So working with them, just be open. And don't be scared when they're on the street, because they don't know to not to run up to you and ask for something. That's what they're used to. So just, tone it down a little bit, because we're all human. We all make mistakes.
Well, and that's a really kind of hidden homeless population.
Yes.
Because oftentimes youth generally do not often look homeless as we stereotype, right? So tell us can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
So what youth are most at risk of becoming homeless?
There's just really no definite answer. But youth homelessness is different from homeless adults or anyone over the age of 25, because homeless youth is someone staying at their friend's house or staying at their aunt's house, so it's it's sheltered and unsheltered, because I don't have anywhere, I don't have anywhere to stay every single night in this one specific spot. I'm house hopping, I have my clothes on my back, I don't know where I'm gonna sleep tomorrow. I crash anywhere, I can. So homeless youth is different from that. And a lot of them have come from poverty, the ones that I've dealt with. We try to put them back with their families. And I hate to say it, but the upper class, middle class, and on up, we can, kind of do that, but with poverty, Section 8 said they can't live there because they're over a certain age and they're working. This 18-year-old is working now. He can't go on mom's Section 8 voucher because it's going to go up. Mom can't afford to lose a Section 8 voucher, so son has to go. Son has nowhere to go. Son's staying at auntie, cousin, friend house because all of them may have the same voucher and he can't live there, so he's homeless. So it's just different.
Yeah, and kind of federal guidelines for HUD, right? For adults, is if you're couch shopping, you're not considered homeless.
Right.
But youth do couch hop, and people are more readily take youth in because I think they have more empathy, for youth. But they also can be taken advantage of.
It comes with conditions because you can come stay at my house, but you have to pay such and such, such and such. Well, I don't have any money because I don't have any job because I don't have any birth certificate or ID or so.
Or you have to do me a favor.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yep.
And now just pick back on Mr. James, and you hit on the point of, because I work with homeless youth also. So I had one come in, he said, I went to Status Pro and I can get a job tomorrow, but I gotta have an ID.
Yep.
But to get that ID, I gotta have a social. But to get that social, I gotta have my birth certificate. So I was like, bruh. But it's like you always needed something to get what he needed. And I'm like, where is this? He's like, 18, my mom. My mom has everything. Well, can your mom give you these documents? I don't talk to my mom. Oh, the parents will hold the documents hostage, and you're like, just give it to the kid. So they don't know how to get a social. They don't know how to get an ID. They don't know how. You just don't realize this generation does not know how. What you take for granted, what we learned at 16, 17, or you go to the DMV, they have no clue. They're driving without license. So many of them. Like, I ain't never had a license, but you driving? Oh, Lord, okay. So it's, you run into those obstacles. Like, yes, I'm able-bodied, and I want to work, but I got 15 things ahead of me before I can even start. Or like we had someone come in yesterday who has a job, but because of circumstances, he's living with his manager from his job. And how long do you think that's going to last? But he was either live with the manager or be on the streets. But he has a full-time job. But I think he's 19, he can't afford this rent.
Right.
And then what landlord is renting to a 19-year-old?
Right.
Who doesn't have a credit history.
So they're fighting losing battles. And just like you say with the mental health, he's struggling with it. He's like, he knows he's depressed. He has anxiety. He has all these issues. But the first thing I said, well, let me get you some help. Oh, no, don't tell anybody I got mental health issues. And I'm like, but you have them. Please don't tell anybody that I haven't. I don't want any help. It's okay. They've been stereotyped that they're scared to say anything. But he has them. He was like, oh, I was diagnosed when I was 15. But when people found out, they treated me this way. So I don't tell anybody. So I'm like, crap. Like, so you have to help them realize that mental health is real.
And it's okay.
You need this help. It's okay. But you can't fight these battles at 19. There's a lot more that you're going to have to fight as you go, you get older in life. So it's hard. It's really hard. But no one sees, they just see a young man strapping, he should be able to get a job, and all his problems will be solved. And you're like, but he has one, and he still got just as many issues as if he didn't have a job.
And that's where I say, it's barrier upon barrier, and you have to work with. You're trying to help them with one thing, but then they have all these other things over here that's going on that you have to address before you can help them with this one thing. But also, when I talk to, able-bodied individuals that have a job, and that's where, when we look at our society, even if you have a job, and if you are going to work and do it, it's still a lack of affordable housing. So we can have our governor to not focus on taking a RAMP program, we can get some affordable housing built, then maybe people will be a little, income-based housing, meaning that, you start off with, based on a lower income, and hopefully your income will increase, and then they can get a little bit more money. But, we don't have that, so an able-bodied person working every day still cannot afford a house. You have to make 3 times the rent if you go and apply for some on your own. And 3 times the rent, who makes, that's difficult. But one of the options that I always throw out there is, we gotta probably get back to communal living. Roommate, 2 roommates in an apartment, even if one sleep on the couch, whatever apartment complex will let you allow that to do. But as you know, other cultures do that. And so we have to kind of look at it where, if two young adults have a job, y'all can share the rent, but you have to get along. That'd be the first thing, I can't get along. So you'd rather be homeless than to kind of get along with someone that you can kind of share. I know I ran into a homeless, 2 friends, one Caucasian, one Black, and they were roommates. And they were housed by Open Doors, and they shared the responsibilities of the home. They both get a check. One got his check a little later, but they actually share an apartment together, a 2-bedroom, and they get along just fine. They help one another out, and so it's like a plus for them. It's a benefit. And, they came in, I was like, they both came in my office and sat together. And I'm just like, that's a great, great way to think about living together.
Especially because if you've been homeless for any length of time, you kind of have a homeless community.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're suddenly housed and you're on your own, you feel isolated.
Yeah.
So we've been thinking about that too, housing 2 and 3 people together, right?
Yes, that's what my thing.
We tried to implement that once and nobody would do it. We
Exactly.
actually implemented shared housing, gone through what I envision and things like that.
You talk to Sarah.
Okay.
You talk to any of the providers that are here today? Yeah. Because it's really about being creative ideas.
And you may want to look at being on a board.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need a community person that has experience, whatever, the services that they're offering, to be on a board. So kind of seek out board and volunteer. You make you connect with some people.
You do that
as
in
well.
Coastal, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we do that here too. So if you want to be a part of any of our boards, yeah.
Well, I know we could go on and on and on. There's always a need, and we will always be doing our best to fill it. But there's also a lot of good that you guys do in our communities as well, and I know that there's success stories. After working at Back Bay for a year, I saw a lot of really bad, and I saw a lot of really good. So to kind of flip things on their head a little bit, do any of you have any success stories of a program you did or a client relationship that you went through that it turned out to be really good? Like all of the services that you provided or partnered with or whatever really helped that person get to a better spot in their life.
I have one, and it's really recent. It just happened a few minutes ago. Actually, one of our individuals that's been coming here for some time, accessing services, been homeless, came up to our case manager when she was case manager before she was director of services and says, I want to get into recovery. I want to get clean. I want to get into recovery program. Barrier was they all cost money, right? And so just before we sat down here, we found out that they're going to reserve a table or a bed for somebody that's injured, right? And so we've got a bed at a recovery place for this individual. To me, that's successful movement forward, right? And he'll be responsible for his recovery, but that's movement forward.
Absolutely.
And I think for us, just being able to even through the circumstances of looking for a building, a permanent home, still being able to provide meals to those that's hungry, that's big for us. And as long as we are able to continue to do that, I think that's something that I'm proud of as executive director. No matter the circumstances, we're still going to make sure these individuals eat with the help from guys like you all. So that's one of our success stories here at Loaves Fishes.
I have one, like when I first came on in January, one of my first clients, she was a female, and she was somebody who was very vulnerable due to her being so together. So it's kind of weird as far as ladies on the streets, if they're like 2 together, they're very sought after because unfortunately, you run into homeless ladies and they look like homeless people. But when you have an individual who don't quite look homeless and who has a good head on the shoulders, are very, very vulnerable. And so I was working with her, and she's somebody who I realized that our process does work through the partnership with Ms. Tonya, Open Doors, even here at Back Bay Missions, and feed my sheep, that the system works. As long as you have a client that's patient and willing and have that connection with you and willing to take the steps, it is very, has a very good payoff. And she's housed now, and it was just a long process, like between getting her seen at Pine Belt and making sure that she had a dog that was a criminal, which what I mean is, like, if you take it to a shelter, they'll put it down just because it had so many incidences of biting people. But that's her emotional support. It was, she had a pit bull, and that was the only thing that was keeping her safe and away from these people pushing up on her. And she would not part with that dog to save her life, because Poppy was a very intimidating pit bull, to the point where I had to visit. She had to go put that dog up, and unfortunately, the Humane Society had to get him, and she was able to move on from that animal due to her trusting into the system and what we was telling her. And so she was eventually to get housed, and now she is housed and is back seeing her mental health and doing well. So that was one that kind of touched my heart, because she was somebody I worried about every weekend when I went home, and to get her housed was like a stress off of me. And I really was able to believe in our program and know that it works with the right people and the help and this believing in your client and being there. It eventually pays off. So I definitely appreciate her, so, and all the people in here.
Partnership is important. Well, of course, working at the Florida clinic, many success stories, but I had this one guy in particular that came in, looked like he was just about to make his transition that day. He had a friend of his that brought him into, she just happened to be a nurse, and she checked in on him. He was staying with someone that wasn't helping him out or whatever, so she brought him to the clinic, and she found out about the program. And, well, she found out about the program by calling, because a lot of times when you call into our call center, the call center will ask you a few questions or whatever, and they may say, Tonya, we think this is a good candidate, whatever, so they may give them my information. So I got him scheduled, they came in, and he had so many conditions going on that he actually, they didn't know if how long he was gonna be here. So once he saw our providers and got all the care he needed, he is thriving. He calls me. He was going back and forth with some family members in Georgia. However, he's been able to get stabilized here, and he looks better. He's getting all of the medications he needs, all of the care, his follow-ups, and he's just like, he can't thank us enough, because the program helped him to get the optimum care that he needed, and now he's, everything is stabilized for him, and plus he's already has gotten his disability, his Medicaid, and so a lot of times this program helps them until they may be in between that whole transition of getting their Medicaid, applying for disability and all of that. So this program helps them if they're, homeless at the time or maybe doubling up until they can get those benefits in. So he came back and he looks great and doing well and looking for a little job on the side, a business of his own and all of that. So that was a great story. And the nurse that brought him in, she unfortunately made her transition, but she was such a caretaker for so many people. So he wanted to honor her, and he told me about that and some of the things that he did. So he's just upbeat now and thriving. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Any questions so far?
Yeah, homelessness, that's just nothing but a word. That's a label that they put on the homeless people.
Yep.
Since I've been here with Loaves Fishes, I've seen plenty of homeless people come from down the road to greatness, getting jobs, because, I have a lot of volunteers that help me on a daily basis. See, so people think they say, well, all thing you want to do is hang on the corner under the bridge and drink and do this and that, but I have people come in and ask me every day, man, can I help you?
Right.
Do you have anything I can do? So that's showing you that they got some kind of will to want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you got to look at the person, and then don't look at the person just by the color of skin or how you look or how you dress. You got to sit there and talk to them and find out, if you need mental, if you need clothes, shower, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, what we do, man, this is a great thing. So I mean, it helps out a lot of homeless people, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I commend y'all for what y'all doing, thank you.
Thank you. And I always ask, what's your skills? You know, if you
Yeah,
come
yeah,
across a
right.
job, you know, very
Yeah,
skillful.
Yeah, they help me every day,
Yeah.
so, I mean, as far as
So
being
much
lazy,
talent.
they not lazy.
You know?
They're not lazy at all, so.
And that's stereotypical.
Yeah,
It's just-
yeah.
it's real.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point. There's a lot of us, we kind of take for granted what we want to do. Like, I have a wide variety of skills. I got a couple college degrees. I can do a lot of stuff. I grew up with a dad working outside. I don't want to do construction, but I could.
Yeah.
I don't want to cook all the time, but I like cooking.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's things like that. We expect these people to just go out and get a job, but why would we expect them to do something they don't want to do if we wouldn't want to do it ourselves?
Right.
And things like that. And we gotta, and like they talked about that in the food pantry earlier, is like, people give us all the food that they don't want, all the non-perishable, the lima beans, the whatevers, the pinto beans. And then these people don't necessarily want all that stuff. They're hungry, they want to eat, but they don't want what you don't want.
Exactly.
So if you don't give people what you wouldn't give yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And by asking what skills and all, it's kind of opening them up, saying, oh, you know, to uplift them and saying, hey, I do have some skills. I haven't thought about what skills I have, or, you know, but, you know, there's always something that they can do, or someone else can maybe utilize their services and their, you know, skills.
You know, a lot of times they don't have the equipment to cook with.
Right.
Like you give them canned lima beans, like you said, green beans, you know, raw chicken or something, you know, they might have to go out there and make a makeshift grill. See, so that's where we come in at. If we feed them breakfast, feed them lunch, we give them a third meal on Friday, we give them breakfast, we give them lunch, we give them third meal, and we give them a Saturday meal. So, I mean, we try to give them something, man, to sustain them
Right.
more than just breakfast and lunch.
Right.
We try to give them something so they can have something for the evening time too, you know, to fall back on, so.
You come here on any day that Loaves Fishes are feeding in the parking
Yeah.
lot, and you see a mother and their children out there eating,
Yeah.
you should not be moved by that.
Right.
That's true.
It is,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. And Feed My Sheep, Chris and I go there quite often once a week, and I mean, it's, the people depend on that place. They walk from, they just come out of nowhere, just walking out the woods, wherever. Then you have people rolling in cars that you wouldn't even think was homeless. They rolling around, but they hungry.
And
they come there.
To piggyback out to Ms. Tonya, Mr. Dave even let people phone in, and he has volunteers that volunteer their own gas and vehicles to deliver these meals.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's
You have
amazing.
seniors too that may not be homeless, but they can't cook for themselves. And so they deliver the meals to them as well. So, you know, I think that's great, but people are hungry.
And
I
it-
volunteered with Devine for Feed My Sheep for 2 years.
Okay.
I've been lost in the system, and he gets upset with me. I tell you, I give him a runaround.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot more here than I did, and I've gone to, Lord is our God, and I've gone to Our Daily Bread, and I saw more here than I have 2 years over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's part of it is misconceptions too, because, you know, I've heard people say to me, they'll see somebody pull up at the parking lot in a Lexus here and then go to Loaves and Fishes, and I'm like, you do not know their story.
Right.
You know, you do not know their story.
And we do not ask. You know?
Yeah.
We don't
ask.
if you want to eat, come eat,
Right?
we don't care, you know.
So people
just-
fall on hard times, right? It's just,
Yeah. None
they
of
can
us
drive a
are exempt.
Lexus. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. They may be living in the Lexus and everything. That's their car, their house and everything. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
We're finding that in the parking lots of our 24-hour casinos. More cars, people living in their cars in those casino parking lots than we have in the past, so that's something to be aware of too.
Well, for example, if you were to, you know, be sat in a room in front of a bunch of young professionals and community leaders, what are some things that maybe the community can do? Like we talked about a lot throughout the morning this morning, but financially or food donations or things like that, but maybe specific to your organizations, if there's a way that we can get involved, what are some ways that we can leave today and be like, okay, next week I'm going to do this, or in a month I want to do this and I want to help. How can we help?
At Loaves and Fishes, we're always looking for volunteers, right? So I think, you know, when you do this type of work, you depend on volunteers, you know, because we're not really we don't have $1 million, you know, to go out and just spend and do things like that. So we rely on the community for support to help us carry out our mission. So I think for us anyway, you know, it just, if you have a skill set, you know, that you think is beneficial or can be beneficial to the people that we serve, then you know, volunteer. Hey, I know how to do X, Y, and Z, or I can offer X, Y, and Z. We're always open to that at Loaves Fishes. So that would be beneficial to us.
Now you need volunteers to cook food, serve food, whatever.
A lot of people come in and help in the kitchen with Mr. Abe, and then they get out on the line and serve and meet the patrons and get to see those guys face to face and you know, build those connections and rapport with the individuals out in the parking lot. So that's important for us. And I think a lot of stigma and misconception will be, you know, denounced if more people come out and just really get to meet these people face to face and get to have a conversation with these individuals. I think a lot of misconceptions will be you know, laid to bed.
I would say same for us volunteers. We want to expand, especially our volunteers from the coast here. Come and help clean the showers, come and kind of mingle with the people here. Come over to the food pantry and volunteer, actually walk people through the pantry because it's client choice, so it's a bit different. Answer the phones, you know, all sorts of stuff, because that really, really helps, and it's encouraging to the staff. So we have volunteers that come down and do work projects on homes, as you saw in the film, but get a team together to work for a day and hammer, and we'll teach you how to use saws and, you know, whatnot. So I think that's something, but I think because we really want to advocate, we want to be an organization that really steps up for advocacy. So advocating, writing, getting involved. You know, if there's a march or an activity at our Capitol to say, hey, we want to refund the ramp program, show up, be there, you know, take the time. Because I've been asked around the ages, because I'm kind of one of those persons that shows up at all those events. It's kind of, does it really help? Yeah, it does make a difference. It's a visual. They see it, right? And it helps you because you realize you're not alone in this work. So I think that's, for me, that's really critically important.
I used to go, not for that, but I used to go on Capitol Hill when I was first diagnosed with lupus as part of the National Lupus Foundation. And I was one of the faces up there. And what people don't understand is that actually Stephen Palazzo, who, you know, is about to be elected out or whatever, but he was the person in the Capitol who made those funding decisions. So they didn't realize that the person down here, he was the head of the Appropriations Committee that made the decisions on where national funding went. And going into those offices and sitting down and just telling them your story, like, I didn't think at first it was going to do anything, but it may have impacted them, but sometimes it impacts you more when you're speaking to them and you kind of feel like, okay, I've been through this, like this is my community, and you feel heard. And those things were funded. So it's hard sometimes to get to Capitol Hill, but even writing letters and stuff like that, it's kind of empowering to you within your community. It makes you step up.
And that's part of it. They'll have advocacy days right at the Capitol for certain issues. Kind of listen, watch for those, and then just show up. You get to go sit in an office with staff, senators, right, representatives.
It's a really good experience. If you could do it, I would very much suggest doing those.
Who is all the young Gulf Coast young professionals?
Raise your hands. CYPs.
Okay, awesome.
Pretty much everybody this morning wants to.
Okay.
We got a couple young at heart people here.
Yeah, I'm looking at my thing. But yeah, just as James says, advocacy. I'm big on advocacy because nothing changes unless you speak up.
That's right.
And I only been here 2 years, but I was riding on my way to work down Hughes Avenue, and I'm just like, no, Hughes and 34th, and I'm, you know, I got every inch of the way, I'm hitting the potholes, and I mean, the street just looked like you're going through a tunnel or something. I'm just like, what is going on? So all I did was make a call to the city. I'm more of a silent advocate. Even when I can't get, you know, somewhere, like she said, just writing a letter, sending an email. So I actually called and I sent the email about I called the road department or whatever you call it, and called and talked to the lady. And she was pretty much laughing at me because I was like, she was like, well, they waiting on funding for something. I said, funding? I said, all these casinos we got and a lot here and all of that. I was like, what you mean funding? And I tell you, within 3 weeks, the road was paved. Right there on Hughes and 34th. And then there was a light out in my neighborhood. I was like, nobody's calling about the light. Can y'all see? Called about a light. Got that on. Just little things like that. You could start there in your neighborhood, in your community, But for HCH program, Healthcare for the Homeless, we look for, and I had some to pass out as well. We're funded by the National Healthcare for the Homeless. It's an organization that advocates for healthcare and health disparities. So just advocating for, if you see someone, if you know of anyone that needs healthcare, lost their job, can't afford it on their job, whatever, let them know about Coastal Family Health. You could, once again, you pay $40, you come in, you see the doctor. If someone is temporarily transitioning, maybe staying with a family member, they can still qualify for 6 months. And, just advocating health and wellness is a holistic, and you can't do anything without your health and your wellness. So we have a lot of people out here. I had one homeless guy never really came in. He's, looks fine, whole nine. I'm like, just come in and do a wellness screen. So even if you just encourage someone to come in and do a wellness screen or check up with labs and see where they are with that. So if you see someone, just send them over. And, we got a website. You can register on there. You can schedule appointments as well.
And if you're somebody, that likes awareness, I think, like you're saying, is kind of understand the intersections, like of homelessness and poverty and race, right? And economic disparity and gender identity. And, start to just really live into that and understand the intersectionality and how does that relate, right? How's that a part of kind of our American fabric? And we're kind of about changing the systems, right? Which is a big effort to work to change the systems that are in place that keep people homeless, hungry, without health care, right? So
We actually had y'all come out to Home of Grace and do the screenings on our female clients a few months ago. And a lot of them, been living in addiction. And they're like, well, I was healthy before, or I'm here because I was unhealthy or whatever. And they had not, even being explained what the tests were, they were like, I didn't even think about that or whatever. And so that was able to connect them while they were in our program, partnering with other nonprofits.
And even when, especially when I see a female, I'm like, we have women's health, get a mammogram, get your pap smear, find out what's going on, so big thing. And like you say, in addiction, they're just kind of, set in that and not really knowing what else is going on with their lives.
And that was an easy partnership. It was just like a couple phone calls actually made it. They were out there.
Yeah, hey y'all. I remember actually Home of Grace. Yeah.
Yeah, a simple way to partner is, right? You go back to your spouses, your partners, your husbands, your wives, your family members, tell them. I went to the Micah Day Center, and there's this crazy panel of people, right? And just tell people the stories, right? Share that there's a need.
Yeah, so much disconnection.
Do you have any other questions? Oh, sorry.
Well, a big thing for us is I'm basically out in the trenches with the homeless individuals and meeting and hearing their stories. A lot of that I can gain from our organization is actual donations between food and actual clothing. That's one of the biggest things. Our stuff is not, our clothing and food is not technically paid for through anything. It's all donated. So any kind of clothing would help, and any kind of food. The little bit of clothing and food that I am able to get, those are for my actual individuals involved in my PAD program. So just the average Joe homeless person, I don't have a lot of stuff to give to them. So that would definitely benefit me and help me out. Even like camping stuff, like tents, sleeping bags, flashlights, batteries, tents and blankets, socks and shoes. Underwear, you'd be surprised. This anything. It don't even have to be new. It could be something in y'all's closets. We're more than welcome to take it. I'm always looking for those items. Women's clothes, men's clothes. I don't run into many kids, but children's clothes would be okay as well. But definitely shoes, anything would be a big help. And then overall, I think advocating has been the big thing of our panel. Just advocating for those shelters. And another thing I run into, and was a big message of me talking, was instant. Like these guys who want these instant services. This is a way that we can have some maybe therapists or medical people on speed dial. Not saying what we have in place now is bad or slow. It's just that sometimes they can't wait. me and Mr. Daniel here at Back Bay Missions and been here almost to 6 o'clock with somebody in crisis and waiting for somebody. So it's if y'all can advocate for some speedier services or something in place for that immediate in crisis individual, that would be fantastic. And of course, shelter. But
Shelter.
that's the big picture. But as far as my organizations, like I said, donations, food and clothing.
Thank you all so much. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's been a long morning. Everybody's kind of winding down for the day.
I'm sorry. And also pet stuff. They're also the individual who has service animals. If you dog food, cat food.
I have a big box of dog food right now, and I don't have a dog.
I put it in my truck right now.
I don't have it with me, but now I know.
We just got a thing at Home of Grace, a box of those collapsible dog bowls. Don't know how it ended up there, but I can bring those. That's something that
and nothing, it ain't got to be super fancy, just like the bare minimum. Because like I said, I did bump into a guy that adopted a cat, and I needed him to place him somewhere, and he was like, I can't go nowhere without my cat. So I was like, hey.
Somebody's cat outside. I was gonna grab him, but the cat was.
That one has a home.
Yeah. Animal stuff is fine. Like little portable
that's the ones that collapse, the silicone ones that collapse down.
And leashes, and I guess kind of like the bare minimum stuff, especially the dog and cat food. That'll be appreciated too. I think that's it.
Any questions, comments, concerns, ideas? All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists, for being here this evening. As I said before, I know this morning was a lot of information. I really hope it's opened your eyes to everything going on right here. I know I hear from a lot of people that they've lived here their whole lives and they don't know about Back Bay Mission, or they recognize the name but they don't know what they do, and they're familiar with some of these organizations but don't really know how much that they can do with how little that they have. So if you have any questions, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Laura, the development director here, Reverend James, any of these panelists. You'll get contact information for all the other attendees and the panelists and everybody that you met today. So you'll get lots of information, but please, please, please reach out. I am very biased. I've been involved with Back Bay for 10 years. I'm very passionate about it. So thank you all so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. I used to work here. I was here as an intern for a year.
Anybody need a pamphlet or a card?
Yeah. If you have business cards, you want to exchange them, there's more food, please feel free to help yourself. And if you need to head out, thank you all so much for being here.